There we go. All right. So we should have audio and all that good stuff. Cool. Cool. Actually, you know what? Go ahead, full screen our tutorial that we're going to go through. All the relevant links and everything should be down in the description. Let me move this over here next to code, because we're going to be using code just because I'm fine with code. I like code. Code's fine. So we're going to use that, and then we're going to go through this tutorial here. Python Django tutorial for beginners, as the title for the stream should indicate. Can I get a yay or nay in chat on the audio? Is the audio good? And Yumbo Prime, I hope you're doing well. Yay. Okay, perfect. Cool. So hopefully you guys find this interesting. I've been working on like refamiliarizing myself with MySQL, because it's been a long time since I've done anything with SQL. I'm not big on it, but the software that I'm making for my company, I kind of have to. I'm going to end up having to work with I'm going to have to work with databases. So, yeah, I've just got to go down that route. And, I've been, those program or software that I'm making for the company is a Python program. And so, to make it easier on all of us employees, if any of us have to like cover for another one and need to like post something or like manage whatever, it'll be nice to have a front end for it, and then have it all just like run on the back end, do all the managing, scheduling, doing all that stuff for our marketing company. But yeah, so I think Django will be a great way of implementing all this. So hopefully you guys want to like watch this. As long as it's not JavaScript, it's fine. Yeah. It's weird. I want to try to avoid JavaScript, but the sad part is like the more that I'm looking into stuff, I'm pretty sure JavaScript makes doing a lot of like fancy effects and animations like just 10 times easier. You can still do them without JavaScript, but it just makes it way easier. I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but at least from what I'm seeing, like getting into web development and stuff, it seems like JavaScript makes like fancy animations and shit just like real easy. But I say we go ahead and dive into this tutorial.
Welcome to the ultimate Django.
And by the way, I put this guy's channel name down in the description. I probably should have linked to his channel, but instead what I'll do is I will post the link to this video in YouTube chat. So just in case you guys want to go check his channel out, he's got many other great tutorials. He's got an absolutely fantastic channel, but we will go through this tutorial, work together, and see what we come out with. Do you know Three.js? And no, I have no idea.
Course. In this course, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about Django, from the very basics to more advanced concepts. So by the end of this course, you'll be able to use Django to build production-grade backends for your web and mobile apps. If you have always wanted to learn web development with Python, you're in the right place. We'll use Python and Django to build and deploy the backend for an e-commerce application. If you're looking for a comprehensive, organized, and practical course that takes you from zero to hero and prepares you for the job, this is the right Django course for you. Everything you need to know about Django is in one place in the right order, so you don't need to jump back.
It's doing the whole like auto video shit. Like, no, we ain't doing that. It's gonna be 1080p the whole time. You got this.
and forth between random tutorials. I'm Mosh and I've taught millions of people how to advance their software engineering skills through my YouTube channel and online school, codewithmosh.com. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe as I upload new videos all the time. Now let's jump in and get started.
I don't know about everybody using TypeScript. I got to be honest. I have no idea. I know a lot of people are definitely using JavaScript, but I think I posted on Twitter and Mastodon about me considering using JavaScript for my website. And I just wanted to see if anybody would respond to be like, yeah, I won't use it because it's got JavaScript. So far, nobody's done that. So, and I would have figured posting on Mastodon would have been the place where someone would have been like, oh God, you're using JavaScript, you piece of shit. Like, I would have figured somebody would have said that, but no, like nobody said anything actually. I'm pretty sure just one guy liked my post on Twitter. Pretty sure that's it.
Let's talk about what you need to know to take this course. For starters, you need to know Python. You need to know the basics of Python, as well as object-oriented programming concepts such as classes, inheritance, polymorphism, and so on. You should also know the basics of relational databases, so you should be familiar with concepts such as tables, columns, primary and foreign keys, relationships, and so on. If you need to refresh the fundamentals, I have a couple of beginner-level tutorials.
I do recommend, because you can go up here and go to his MySQL tutorial for beginners. If you need to refresh yourself on MySQL, I highly recommend that. It's fantastic. It's great. We're not going to go into that because that's like a 3-hour-long course, and this is just an hour-long course, so we're going to stick to this one. But yeah, if you need to learn SQL, he's got a fantastic beginner tutorial
on my YouTube channel, as well as comprehensive courses on my website, codewithmosh.com. I've put the links down below in case you're interested.
The Google Career Certificate changed my life.
I
Being
bet
able
it
to
did.
connect with employers.
Get out here.
All right, so I'm assuming that you're the right student
Hey,
for this
Shalev,
course.
how's it going?
Now let's talk about how you should take this course. First and foremost, I want you to watch this entire...
Now, we're getting into this course. So first off, you should have somewhat of a basic knowledge of SQL. You should have basic knowledge of Python. And also, is the video audio good? Do I need to bump it up at all in OBS? Because I think I've got it turned down a little bit. Just let me know. I don't think I've asked that from anybody. So just let me know if the video, like audio quality, is good. You can hear it all. It's all good. Install an ad blocker, please. What ad blocker should I install? Like uBlock Origin, Safari ad blocker, ad block for Safari on the Mac App Store. Ad block plus. I just don't trust any of these. All right, I think this is going to load up some of my account data. So, well, no, it just chose my name. Okay, AdBlock has been downloaded more than 350 times, more than 65 people. Adequate, but badly diminished. Never mess. Okay, intrusive error pop-ups. Yeah, the reviews on this thing is not great. Not great. Hello, Alex. Audio is good. Okay, cool. All right, well, look, it sounds like we're just going to have to deal with the ads for now, but I'm not really that opposed to it because, like, let's be real, it's how these video creators get paid. So,
course, all the way from the beginning
I'll
to
go
the
ahead
end,
and watch
even if
it.
you're familiar with Django, because along the way, I will share a lot of tips and tricks, and I don't want you to miss out on any of them. If you have taken any of my other courses, you know that I'm not going to waste your time with repetitive or useless stuff. So make sure to watch every
hello,
lesson.
everybody.
Now,
Welcome.
while watching each lesson, I want you to take notes. You can just write down some keywords on a piece of paper if you don't
Would anyone have a problem, since there's a whole bunch of people popping in, would anyone have a problem with me going back so we can start a little bit, like we'll just go back over like the prerequisites for the course? Does anyone have a problem with that? Let me know. Might go back just so everyone knows what you kind of need to know to get into the course. Because I mean, we did kind of jump straight into it as we got started. All right, cool. No one's got a problem with it. Awesome. All right, we'll go back here. We'll go back over the prerequisites. We won't do this again. I'll go ahead and just wait here for like 20, 30 seconds, just in case there's one or two more people that pop in. But again, it's not too complicated. Like, as long as you know some Python and some basic SQL, you should be good. If you don't know anything about SQL, this guy's got a fantastic tutorial. The link to this video should be in the chat, but if you can't find it, don't worry. The name of his channel is in the description. Just search it. You'll find it. All right, let's get into this.
Let's talk about what you need to know to take this course. For starters, you need to know Python. You need to know the basics of Python, as well as object-oriented programming concepts such as classes, inheritance, polymorphism, and so on. You should also know the basics of relational databases, so you should be familiar with concepts such as tables, columns, primary and foreign keys, relationships, and so on. If you need to refresh the fundamentals, I have a couple of beginner-level tutorials on my YouTube channel, as well as comprehensive courses on my website, codewithmosh.com. I've put the links down below in case you're interested. All right, so I'm assuming that you're the right student for this course. Now let's talk about how you should take this course. First and foremost, I want you to watch this entire course all the way from the beginning to the end, even if you're familiar with Django, because along the way, I will share a lot of tips and tricks, and I don't want you to miss out on any of them. If you have taken any of my other courses, you know that I'm not going to waste your time with repetitive or useless stuff. So make sure to watch every lesson. Now, while watching each lesson, I want you to take notes. You can just write down some keywords on a piece of paper if you don't want to write a lot of notes. I strongly believe that the act of writing things down will help you remember new things that you learn. Then, after each lesson, go through your notes and repeat the same steps I show you in the video. This is exactly how I personally learn new things. Also, I've carefully designed tons of exercises that help you understand and remember the materials. So make sure to do all these exercises, because the more you practice, the better you will be at Django or coding in general.
All right, so let's actually do this properly. Give me 1 second. Going to go grab my iPad, and I will load up a notes app so I can properly take notes. Let me add. Go back here, go to add a new note. All right, let's do this. Call this Django. My good Lord, if I could spell Django tutorial. God. Cannot write. Cool. All right.
Back to the ultimate Django course. In this section,
hopefully you guys are ready to take notes as well. So I'm going to take notes as we go through. We're going to repeat what he does. We're going to do this proper tutorial.
we're going to talk about the basics of Django. First, I will give you a quick introduction to what Django is and why it's so popular. Then we'll talk about the fundamental web development concepts that every web developer must know. Next, we'll set up our machine for development and create our first Django project. Once that project is up and running, I will show you 2 essential techniques for debugging Django applications. This is going to be a short and sweet introduction to Django, so let's jump in and get started. So what is Django and why is it so popular? Well, Django is a free and open source framework for building web applications with Python. It's not the only web framework for Python, but it's the most popular one because it helps us build a website in less time with fewer lines of code. That's why a lot of companies like YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, and Dropbox use Django in their tech stack. Now, Django is what we call a batteries included framework, which means it comes with a lot of features out of the box, so we don't have to code them from scratch. For example, it gives us an admin interface for managing our data, which is a huge time saver. It also has an object relational mapper that abstracts a database so we can query or persist data without writing a lot of SQL code. It also comes with an authentication package for identifying users. It also has a package for caching data and much more. So since Django offers all these amazing features, we can focus on our application and its requirements. We don't have to reinvent the wheel and code all these features from scratch. Now, once in a while, you might come across someone like our popular superstar developer, John Smith, who thinks Django is a piece of crap because it's old and bloated with so many features. He used it, hated it, and then rewrote his entire project with a new shiny framework that is faster. Well, saying a framework is better than Django because it's faster is kind of like saying a Ferrari is better than a truck because it's faster. What if you want to move something? You're not going to use your Ferrari for that, right? So a wise software engineer doesn't pick up a framework merely based on its performance. There are so many other things you need to take into account, like the maturity of the framework, how stable it is from one version to another, its learning curve, the size of the community, and so on. Django has been around for a long time and it has a huge community. So there are tons of Django packages built by the community that you can reuse in your applications. Also, if you get stuck, there's always someone out there to help you. If you want to hire people, there are tons of people to choose from. So these are the benefits of having a huge community around the framework. Now, regarding Django features, yes, Django comes with a lot of features, but you don't have to use or even learn all of them because all these features are optional. So you can use the features that make sense for your application. So in my opinion, debates about the best framework in the world are useless. We all like different things, and just because someone doesn't like Django, it doesn't mean it's bad. A lot of companies are using Django and are looking for Django developers. Here in the US, the average salary of a Django developer is just over $117,000 a year. So if you like Python and want to get into web development, learning Django is a good investment for your future.
Easy Wheels started as my college project, and we now sell our wheel covers all around the world.
So you learned that Django is a framework for building web applications with Python. Now let's talk about some of the fundamental concepts you need to understand to build web applications. Let's say we're going to build an online store and publish it at moshbuy.com. Now this website is going to have two parts or two applications, a front end and a back end. The front end is the part that is loaded inside a web browser on a client machine. It's the part that the user sees and interacts with. The back end is the part that runs on a web server and is responsible for data processing, validating business rules, and so on. Now let's imagine that Alice wants to visit our website. So she points her browser to moshbuy.com. This address is also called a URL, which is short for Uniform Resource Locator.
Thank you.
It's
I know what a
basically a way
URL
to
is.
locate a resource on our internet. A resource can be a web page, an image, a video.
I don't think I quite understood how beginner this is going to be. This is quite a beginner course. I don't think I've seen many web development tutorials that cover what a URL is, but I like it.
A PDF, and so on. So Alice types moshbuy.com in her browser and presses enter. At this moment, her browser sends a request to the web server that hosts our website and says, hey, Alice wants to see the homepage. So the web server should take this request, process it, and return a response back to the client. This data exchange is defined by a protocol called HTTP, which is short for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It defines how clients and servers can communicate. So this is the big picture. As Alice navigates our website, for each page, her browser sends an HTTP request to the server and receives an HTTP response. Now, as part of building the backend for this website, we need to decide how we're going to respond to clients. One option is to generate the requested page on the server and return it to the client. We use HTML for that. HTML is short for Hypertext Markup Language. It's a simple language for representing web pages and their content. Every web page you have seen on the internet is built using HTML. So one option is to generate the page on the server and return an HTML document to the client. The other option is to return only the data needed on the requested page and have the client generate the page. So instead of putting a complete page or a complete HTML document in an HTTP response, we only return the data like the list of products. Now, what is the difference? Well, if we push this responsibility to the client, we can free up the server so it can serve more clients. Our application will be more scalable. That's why, over the past few years, this approach has become more trendy and is now considered the industry best practice. These days, we have tools like React, Angular, and Vue for generating web pages on the client. These are all client-side tools that are used by front-end developers. In contrast, we have server-side tools for building backends. Django falls in this category, so you should not compare Django with, let's say, React. You may compare Django with other server-side frameworks like ASP.NET Core, which is used by C# developers, Express, used by JavaScript developers, and so on. So if we push the responsibility of generating web pages to the client, the server essentially becomes a gateway to the data. On the server, we can provide endpoints that the client can talk to get or save various pieces of data. For example, we can provide one endpoint to get the list of products and another endpoint to get the list of orders someone has placed. Now, all these endpoints together represent the interface that clients use to talk to the server. In technical terms, we say the server provides an API or an application programming interface to clients. This API is essentially like the buttons on a remote control. All these buttons together represent the interface or the API we use to interact with the TV, okay? So in this course, our focus will be on using Django to build an API for our online store. Client applications can use this API to get or save the data. How these clients are built is irrelevant here. We can use React, Angular, or even plain JavaScript. That falls under front-end development, which has nothing to do with Django. Once we build this API, if you know front-end development, you can always build a client app that talks to this API. All right, now that you understand the big picture, we are ready to set up our development environment. And that's what we will do next. All right, let's make sure you have the right setup before we start coding. The first thing I want you to do is upgrade your Python to the latest version. So head over to python.org/download and download the latest version of Python for your operating system. Once you do that, then open up your terminal window and run python --version to make sure you have upgraded your Python correctly. Now here we see Python 2.
Now I realize this is for Mac and this is probably not going to be relevant to most of you guys, but I'm pretty sure you guys know how to install packages on Linux or Windows if that's what you're using, but I'm pretty sure we got this.
Because on Mac, we have two different versions of Python running side by side. We have the old Python 2, which is now deprecated, and we also have Python 3. So if you're using a Mac, you have to run Python 3 -- version. But if you're on Windows or Linux, you have to run Python -- version, okay? So here I'm using Python 3, of course. It's basically a dependency management tool for installing our application dependencies in virtual and.
All right. So we got to install pipe env. Wait, hold on. Safari, you need to be over here. Thank you. So I can go over here. Well, no, I'll just load up a terminal. Kitty. And let's go pip 3 install pipe env, right? Yeah. Go ahead and install all of that.
Environments. This way, our application dependencies will not clash with other applications' dependencies. Okay, so let's go ahead and install this.
Make your ideas happen with
No,
Hosting.
I'm good.
Web
I'm
hosting's
good.
now on sale at just
I'm good.
$2.70.
Thank you. Bye.
Now, in this course, just like my other courses, I'm going to use Visual Studio Code or VS Code throughout the course. Now, once you run, get features such as IntelliSense, debugging, code navigation, and so on.
Yep. Got this. Install VS Code, install Python plugin. Gotcha. Super, or extension.
All right, now that we have installed all the necessary tools, let's create our first Django project. So here in the terminal window, I'm going to go to my desktop. You can go anywhere on your machine. It doesn't really matter. Now we're going to create a directory called storefront. That is the name of our project. Next, we go inside this directory.
Okay. So I'm just going to cd into my repos folder, and I'll make it here. Make dir, we'll call it storefront as well. cd into storefront.
And run pipenv install Django. So we're going to
Pipe nv install Django. Okay. Django. Cool.
install Django using pipenv inside a virtual environment. Now, let's go ahead. All right, now take a look. So over here, you can see that pipenv has created a virtual environment for this project. Down below, you can see the path to this virtual environment. Now, if you're on Windows, you're going to see something like C drive / whatever. Now, if you're on a Mac and using Z shell, which is this fancy, colorful terminal window, you can hold down the command key and click on this path to go into it. Otherwise, you can just copy this and use the cd command to go inside this directory. Now, take a look. So here's our virtual environment. In this environment, we have this bin folder that contains a bunch of binaries. For example, we have Python.
Okay. This here. So
on pip, Django admin, and so on. So back to the terminal, pipenv created a virtual environment and installed Django inside that environment. But in addition to this, pipenv also created two files in this directory, pipfile and pipfile.log. So I'm going to open this directory using Visual Studio Code by running code period. If this doesn't work on your machine, just drag and drop this folder onto VS Code.
let's open up our repos, storefront, open. Yes, I trust the authors.
All right, so here's our pip file. This is like package.json for JavaScript projects. So in this file, we can see that our project needs this particular version of Python. And under packages, you can see the packages that our application is dependent upon. So here we have Django equals asterisk. That means any version or the latest version of Django. If we installed a particular version of Django, we would see that version here. Now back to the terminal window, we need to activate this virtual environment. So we'll use the Python interpreter inside this virtual environment, not the one that is installed globally on this machine. To do that, we're going to run pipenv shell. Okay. Next, we're going to use Django admin.
Wait, hold on.
That is installed globally on this machine. To do that, we're going to run pipenv shell.
Okay. Pip env shell. Okay.
Okay. Next, we're going to use Django admin to start a new project. Django admin is a utility that comes with Django. So if you run it, we can see all these commands that we can use to work with Django projects. As we go through the course, you will become familiar with these commands. In this lesson, we're going to use Django admin start project, and we're going to call that project storefront.
Okay. So let's start up the project. Django. what was it? Django-admin start project -admin start project. Call it storefront. And that's it. All right.
Now back to VS Code. Django admin created this directory for our project. And inside this directory, it created another directory that is the core of our application. In this directory, we have these files, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But before
Yup, there we go. We got all the files and everything in there.
I do so, let's get rid of this redundancy because we have 3 storefront directories. The top one is the one that we created earlier in the terminal. And then we have these 2 other directories, one for the project, one for the core of our application. So I'm going to delete this project directory. Now we're back in the previous step. So we don't have a Django project at this stage. Now, back in the terminal, let's bring up the last command.
Okay. Do all of that just to delete it. All right. Delete. Move to trash. Oh, wait. Hold on. I should have deleted this one. Whoops. Delete. Move to trash. Right. Bring up the last command.
But type a period at the end. This tells Django to use the current directory as the project directory. So Django is not going to create an additional directory for our project.
Okay. Getcha.
Okay, now take a look. So we have this directory, which is the core of our application. In this directory, we have this init file, which defines this directory as a package. We have this settings module where we define our application settings. We have the URLs module where we define the URLs of our application. And these 2 other modules that are used for deployment. For now, don't worry about them. Now, next to this directory, we have this file manage.py. This is a wrapper around Django admin. So going forward, instead of Django admin, we're going to use manage.py. The reason for this is that manage.py takes the settings of this project into account. Let me show you what I mean. So now that we have a project, we want to run a web server. So another command that Django admin provides is run server. However, if we run Django admin, run server, we get an error saying requested setting debug, but settings are not configured because at this point, Django admin doesn't know about the settings of our project. So now that we have a project, instead of Django admin, we're going to run Python manage.py. Now look, we see the same commands that Django admin provides. So here we can say Python manage.py run server. Now optionally, we can supply a port number.
So Python manage.py run server.
If we don't supply this, by default, this will use port 8000. But you might have another application running on port 8000. In that case, you might want to explicitly set the port number. So let's go ahead with that. Now we don't get an error because manage.py knows about the settings of our project. Now here we get this warning saying you have 18 unapplied migrations. Don't worry about this yet. We'll talk about this soon. So if you look over here, you can see that Django has started a development server at this address. So we can copy this and paste it into browser, or if you're on a Mac and using Z Shell, you can hold down the command key and click this. All right, beautiful. Our first Django project is running.
Let's test this out. load it up over here. So let me go and plop this in over here. Boom. All right, we got it. Fantastic. Cool beans.
Successfully.
Hey, Red.
So let's move on to
GT,
the
how's
next
it going?
lesson. So far, I've been using a separate terminal window, but VS Code also has an integrated terminal window that is easier to use. But to use that, we have to properly configure it to use the Python interpreter inside our virtual environment. Let me show you how to do this. So back to our terminal window. First, we're going to stop the web server by pressing Ctrl and C. Okay. Now back in VS Code, on the top, under the View menu, look, we have this command palette. The shortcut on Mac is Shift, Command, and P.
Over the past 5 years, I have taught people all over the world how to trade
Get
stocks.
out
I
of here.
even taught this strategy to my son.
Now here we're going to search for Python.
So we got to go Shift Command P, Python, select interpreter. Hello.
Interpreter. So currently, VS Code is using this Python interpreter that is installed globally on this machine. We don't want to use this. We want to use the one inside our virtual environment. But how can we find the path to our virtual environment? Very easy. So back to the terminal, let's run pipenv --venv.
Let me take this, drag it over here, just so that note stops popping up, and go, what was it? Pip env --venv virtual environment. Yep. Oh, cd into repos. What was it called? Storefront. And then do that. All right. Okay, let's see.
All right, here's the path. So let's copy this. Good. Now back to VS Code. We're going to select interpreter path. Then we're going to paste the path and append /bin/Python at the end. If you're on Windows, instead of a /, you have to use a \. Okay. Good. Now, in this project, we have an extra directory, VS Code. We have a settings file, and here we have the path to a Python interpreter. Good. With this, we can go to the View menu.
I don't have that.
Now look, we have this integrated terminal. The shortcut on Mac is Control.
Why am I not going back? There we go.
Good. Now, /Python at the end. If you're on Windows, instead of a /, you have to use a \. Okay. Good. Now, in this project, we have an extra directory, VS Code. We have a settings file, and here we have the path to a Python interpreter. Good. With this, we can go to the View menu. Now look, we have this integrated terminal. The shortcut on Mac is Control and backtick.
So wait, why do I not have that? Okay, so I do have it selected, but I guess it just doesn't make the .vs code thing anymore. I guess. Yeah. Well, it seems to be working. I guess hidden files is
Now
turned
VS Code
off.
automatically activates the virtual environment for this
Definitely
project.
could be it.
So
Oh, I'm doing
here we
really
can
good with
run
Python.
Python.
Thanks for asking,
manage
Clay.
Py,
Hope you
run
guys are
server.
doing good. Ian, Clay.
Good.
Hope y'all
So
are
going
doing
forward,
fantastic.
I'm going to use the integrated terminal window here. It's easier. We can always hide it by pressing Control and backtick, or bring it.
Hold on, let me go
Now we
back.
have the view menu. Now look, we have this integrated terminal. The shortcut on Mac is Control and backtick. Now VS Code automatically activates the virtual environment for this project. So here we can run Python manage.py run server.
Cool. Manage.py, and I think it's run server. All right, cool. There we go.
Good. So going forward, I'm going to use the integrated terminal window here. It's easier. We can always hide it by pressing Control and backtick, or bring it back. We can maximize it, move it around, and so on. Now, one quick tip. Sometimes when running this command, you might get a syntax error saying invalid syntax. This happens every now and then when VS Code fails to activate the virtual environment for this project. To solve this problem, all you have to do is open a new terminal window, and look, VS Code executed this command to activate the virtual environment for this project. Now we can run Python manage.py run server. Great. Hey guys, Mosh here. I just wanted to let you know that this tutorial you've been watching is actually the first hour of my Ultimate Django course. The complete course is about 10 hours and goes way beyond this tutorial. So if you're serious about learning Django and are looking for a job as a backend developer, I highly encourage you to enroll in the course. The course comes with tons of exercises and solutions, a full e-commerce project that you will eventually deploy to the cloud, plus a 30-day money-back guarantee and a certificate of completion you can add to your resume. In case you're interested, I'll put the link down below. And if not, that's totally fine. Let's move on to the next lesson.
Why are you not investing in tax liens? No, seriously. Why are you not investing into one of the most...
I think I might take that course. Like,
all right, let's talk about apps. So every Django project is essentially a collection of various apps, each providing certain functionality. Just like the apps on your mobile phone.
I don't
Each
care
app
about AdBlock.
provides a certain functionality, right?
Creators
Django
don't get
projects
money if
are
I use
exactly the
AdBlock,
same.
so
in this project,
I don't really
let's
care
open
about
up
it.
the storefront directory.
Also, I'll never
module.
I'll never get people's aversion to waiting 5 seconds. Like, we used to have to wait like minutes every 15 minutes in a 45-minute show. And it's just so annoying. Now all you gotta do is wait 5 seconds, press a button, and I don't know. I just like it more. It at least gives a creator a chance to earn money. Like, well, you still do if you have well, that's true. That's true. But I mean, also, let's be real. In this day and age, what are you doing with cable? Come on, dog. Like, I'm a developer and a Linux user. I'm lazy. Well, I mean, I don't know that being a developer and a Linux user necessarily makes you lazy, but I completely agree with you on that statement. I'm right there with you. All right, so let's keep going.
You can collapse this panel by pressing Command and B on Mac or Control and B on Windows. Okay. Now in this module, we have a bunch of different settings. In this lesson, we're going to look at the install apps. So every Django project by default includes these apps. The first app is the admin app, which gives us an admin interface for managing our data. Then we have the auth app, which is used for authenticating users. Then we have content types app, which we'll talk about later in the course. Next, we have the sessions app, which is kind of legacy. We don't use sessions anymore. A session is a temporary memory on the server for managing users' data. These days, when building APIs with Django, we don't use the sessions app. So we can come here and delete this app. Then we have the messages app, which is used for displaying one-time notifications to the user. And finally, we have the static files app for serving static files like images, CSS files, and so on. So each app provides a certain piece of functionality, okay? Now we can also create our own apps here. So let's save this file. Now let's open up the terminal window by pressing Control and backtick. So here's our terminal window where we have our development server running. We're going to open a new terminal window. Okay, now let's expand this. To clear the window, we simply press Control and L. Now we're going
Okay. If I need to make anything in my own window larger, just let me know. Let's see, so we can open up, what did you say? It was in settings. Okay, so you've got a secret key. Keep this secret key used in production secret. Okay, so this would be something that in an actual production environment you wouldn't want to show anybody. Gotcha. Okay. Let's see where are the apps and stuff. Oh, installed apps. There we are. Yep. There they all are. All right, so let's click add a new window. And let's see, what are we going to do? Need to get my mom ad block because it actually ends up costing her hundreds. What? Ends up costing her hundreds? What? What do you mean? Giving the creator money is good, but when ads are spreading malware and other sites, and also ads are being used mainly for tracking users. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But yeah, I just don't care. Like, if I'm being honest, I just don't care. I would set up Pi-hole on my network because family complain about ads, but whenever I bring up blocking them on network, they say, hell no. I don't know why. That's weird. I don't know why. I mean, my mom and everybody was really against me, like, putting Linux on their computers for, like, forever. But somehow I was able to convince them slowly. But the fact that you wouldn't have to deal with like 6 viruses a month wasn't a good enough sell. I'll never get that. I will never get that. Like, if you're computer illiterate and you are constantly being riddled with viruses, wouldn't you just want something that doesn't give you viruses? Like, I will never get it. I still use another browser profile to watch YouTube with ads. What's Django? Well, you might have to watch this live stream over, but Django is essentially a web application backend for serving data to a client or a front end. Uses Python, and yeah, it's for building web apps and stuff like that, which is very relevant to what I'm doing with my business right now. I'm going to add Django to my to learn in public list. Yeah, see, like, I was going down the Rust route, but if I'm being honest, like, Rust is one of those things where I really want to like Rust, but I don't. Like, it's weird. Like, I want to like Rust way more than I would something like Python or C#, but I just, for some reason, don't. And, like, I feel like it's also a better language than Python and definitely C#, but it just doesn't, like, it just doesn't feel as good. Like, I'm not as interested in it for some reason. I don't know why. oh, she clicks everything. It's okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. That's why, like, for me, I don't have a problem with like targeted advertisements. I really don't care that much about being tracked from site to site. Like, I would prefer that it doesn't happen. And if there's a simple option that doesn't that isn't intrusive at all for denying that to happen, I'll do it. But for me personally, it doesn't really matter, like having a whole bunch of personalized ads or anything, because I'm a cheap ass, so I don't buy shit, period. So it really doesn't matter to me. But like, like when you're 85, you've got a shitload of money in the bank account to like hold you over for the rest of your years, but you're just bored as shit. Like at that point, like having targeted advertisements is fucking dangerous, dude. Like it's dangerous because they'll just buy shit. Like, cause I mean, like, let's be honest, we all know that person who gets like the new, like Amazon package at the door, like every 2 days, like, and they don't even remember what they ordered, but they're excited to get it. It's like a crack fiend. Like when that Amazon package shows up. Yeah, but good ads are hard to find. Like, let's be honest. Can't block ads on network at my house because Dad's job mostly involves making sure ads work. Yeah, that's a little bit of a conflict of interest, just a tad bit. Ooh, that is good, Artemis. Yeah, I should start paying for YouTube Premium. I used to, but I stopped. I can't remember why. I think it's like I got a new bank card and I just like didn't want to switch it over. But I should definitely get it again because I know it. I know you do like help content creators get more money with YouTube Premium. Also, I think you get YouTube Music with YouTube Premium. Pretty sure you do. Yeah, I should definitely do that. But anyway, I'm going to catch up through chat and then we'll continue on with the course. I made my mom do that. I ran Solus Linux on her computer for a year. My mom was so hesitant to let me install Ubuntu on her computer. Like, she was convinced I was going to ruin her computer. She was convinced that she wouldn't be able to use the programs that she needed to. Like, she was so convinced. And I just remember me fucking crying, laughing after getting Ubuntu installed on her computer. And like, she was like, well, I'm going to need to work on Office documents. I'm like, well, I've already got LibreOffice installed on there. And she's like, no, I need Microsoft Word. And I'm like, Mom, it's the same thing. It opens up documents. Like, you don't do any complex formatting, so you won't have any issues. Just try it. She's like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to use it. Opens it up. Like, literally opens up LibreOffice, and she goes, oh, this looks just like it. I'm like, exactly. And she's used LibreOffice and Ubuntu for forever. Like, her laptop just recently got Fedora on it. Actually, I told my sister to install it on there. And I haven't seen the laptop, so I don't know that it's on there, but fingers crossed my sister did it. I don't know. If not, I'll have to take care of it. It's not that big of a deal. But here's the tip. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Clay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that super chat. I went through a few sections in a book about learning Rust and I got bored pretty quick. I love Python though. Yeah, like, I don't know, like Python's one of those things where I've always been familiar with Python, like not great at Python, but pretty decent. I know quite a bit of the libraries and the packages or whatever you want to call them. I'm pretty decent at Python. I've messed around in Python. It never published any like Python scripts or programs or whatever you want to call them. But I've always had to work around Python, but I've never fallen in love with it until now. Like, I really, really like Python now. It's just got simple solutions to like just what I thought would be complex problems. God, like there's a lot of Python stuff that's really, really good, like really good. But I honestly thought I would like Rust more. I mean, I did the course on Rust, started into it, and I've been on and off like trying to get back into Rust, but I can't. Like it's riddled with issues. Like it's weird. Like Rust is it's supposed to be really good at debugging your software. And like, when you run into compiler errors or whatever, like it's easier to read and all this stuff. And it doesn't end up being that way. Like I run into way more issues trying to like learn Rust than I ever ran into with Python, C#, trying to think, definitely SQL, which is odd because I thought I would fucking hate SQL. I hate databases, but SQL is actually a very simple, particular MySQL is a very simple thing to work with. Yeah, getting sidetracked. You also become a target for scams too. Oh, that's true. That is very true. That is very true. When you start clicking random ads on websites to buy shit, like, yeah, no, you're a prime target for having your information stolen. Like that I mean, that's most advertisements on the sides of websites are phishing. Like that's pretty much what they're there for. Oh, wait. Oh, well, having controlling parents, Linux Gamer, is like, luckily I was blessed with a non-controlling parent, but who still like wouldn't let me go crazy. Like she's like, didn't let me go buck wild or anything, but she wasn't like super controlling. And, I've got a lot of friends that had super controlling parents. The good thing that I will say though is those people, like like when you have a really, really controlling set of parents and you get out of the house, you either go one of two ways. You either go super wild, like you do everything that you're not supposed to do and wouldn't be allowed to as soon as you can, or you do everything that you weren't allowed to do in extreme moderation, extremely, like very well put together. Like I had a few friends that were from super controlling households, and only one of them was like partying, like not doing what he was supposed to when he got into college. Like only one of them. The other two were like, they were partiers, but like extremely professional. Like I remember one night, one of them went out, partied like crazy. Like, I don't know. I know he drank. I know he did some drugs. I have no idea what they were or anything, but like partied until like 3 o'clock in the morning, passed out, slept, and met me for a meeting at 9:30 in the morning and was completely like awake, like looked clean, professional, was like in business casual attire. Like, dude, he knew how to party, but like also knew how to get his shit done. Like, that is a good skill. It is a really good skill, because not everybody can go party hard and like have a good time and then still be ready to do like their normal daily life, the next morning. Let's see. Oh yeah. Well, Clay. Yeah, no. If you use Adobe, you can't go over to Linux, which hopefully Adobe will stop being douchebags one day. Hopefully. We can all hope desperately that they will one day stop being turds. Qtile is Python. Why? I don't know. That's a good question. I like this brief intermission that we're doing here in the middle of the course. This is nice. But why is Qtile Python? I have no idea, because it also doesn't make sense, because Qtile, like one of the things that doesn't make sense about Qtile being Python is Python gets regular updates and Qtile gets regular updates. And both of those things make it to where if you run Qtile and you don't update your configuration for 3 to 4 months, the odds that you're going to update Qtile and then it's going to, your configuration file is going to break Qtile is extremely likely. I will never understand that. Like, I'll never get it. It's just, it's very annoying. Like, it's very annoying. But Qtile is also one of those things where, like, a window manager is probably one of the easiest projects to do in Python. Or hold on, let me rephrase that. Qtile using Python probably makes creating that window manager much easier compared to other options, because Python is obviously very robust, and I'm sure there's a lot of shortcuts that you can take in building a window manager with Python. However, the main argument that people use against Qtile being Python is that Python is slow, which is a stupid argument, because I've used Qtile and it's not slow. Like, if you want to complain about Qtile, there's definitely some complaints you could make, but the speed of it is, that's a stupid argument. You're not going to get anywhere with me on that argument. When a language doesn't have symbols like, brackets, all that good stuff, quotes, my mind goes insane. Yeah, well, see, yeah, that's why I can't do Lisp. Lisp is terrible, man. Like, I look at Lisp and I'm like, oh god, like Lisp looks like I'm looking at Korean. That's honestly how it feels. Like, I don't like Lisp. Like, I'll never get Lisp. I also don't get the interest in Lisp. Like, I get it, like Emacs, and like I get you liking Lisp if you've got a hard on for Emacs, but I don't get liking Lisp and then liking Emacs because you like Lisp. Like, that whole train of thought, like, I'll never understand it. I mean, I would like to, but I don't. I can't. It just makes no sense to me. No sense. I had to do a database unit exam for my IT course. Ooh. Yeah, that does not sound fun. Having controlling parents is like using Windows. No, it's worse than using Windows, man. Like, let's be honest. Because at least, like, well, no. All right. The more accurate way of saying that would be, it's like using your school's Windows. It's like, not only is it already locked down from the company, but also on top of that, there's a whole nother added layer where it's like, no, you can only install apps that, like, we deem okay. Like, no, like, you don't have the option of installing any app. Like, no. You get the ones that we approve, that pass our checklist. Like, oh, I hate schools running Windows, man. They limit them shits so hard. But I also do get it, because there's definitely those kids who would just be watching Pornhub in the back of the class, like, all day. Like, I totally get it. Ian, I mean, you look, rolling releases are not necessarily shit. They're just shit when you need stability. If you don't need stability, like, which, like, I'll be honest, like, I'm not going to lie. I've ran Arch as a server before, and it worked completely fine for the 7 or 8 months I used it. Now, I'm sure longer term than that, like, at some point I would have ran into an issue. I'm sure it's Arch. Like, I'm sure it's a rolling release. It would eventually happen. But I mean, if we're being honest, they're not terrible. It's just, if stability is a big factor for you, like, yeah, no, doesn't make sense. But that's also like saying you want to save gas and so you shouldn't buy a Ferrari. Like, common sense dictates that. Like, it shouldn't be an argument or something that we even have. It should just be like, yeah, duh. Like, if you want to save gas, you buy a Honda Civic. You don't go out and buy a fucking Ferrari. Like, it's just not how it works. I eat parentheses for breakfast. Don't we all do? Don't we all? I mainly plan on learning Python, C, C++, and Rust because writing Hello World is easy in all 3 of those languages. Yeah. Well, I mean, I will say one thing though, like, if we're being honest, you most likely don't need to learn all 3 of those or all 4 of those languages. Really, in all honesty, pick 2 languages and then pick something to specialize in those languages. Like, yes, over time, you'll pick up broader knowledge in, like, you know, say all 4 of the languages or more or whatever. But especially if you're like just starting out, at least personally, what I think is probably the best plan to do is to start out learning 2 different languages, and then in those languages pick something to specialize in, like front-end web development, back-end web development, like Django here. You know, like, just pick something in those languages to specialize in, because that's how you're going to be able to definitely compete for a job. And then having broader knowledge outside of those areas will just help you be more competitive inside whatever, like, career path you want to go down. I sounded like I was really smart there. Don't let that fool you. That's an idiot's recommendation. Okay. All right. I use Emacs, but I don't use DT's config. Oh, that's not normal. A lot of people do. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I know a lot of people that use DT's config, and a lot. I just tried entering GNU Geeks. Yeah, no, I can't use Geeks. Can't. Most of the FSF approved distros, I just can't. They're all just broken. Like, unless you have like some really specific open hardware, they're fantastic. But like, if you need to do like anything that's like mobile and like, I don't know, say like you potentially need Wi-Fi from time to time, like, yeah, no, you kind of fucked. Like, bye-bye. That's what I meant. Oh, okay. My bad, Ian. My bad. Wait. Oh, you do use DT's config. Oh, okay. Another person. See, like, a lot of people use it. Like, a lot of people use this config. Like, a lot. I do have open hardware, a 15-year-old computer with a Pentium. Whew, dog. Oh, that is rough. That is rough. I actually sent a laptop to Low Spec Linux laptop because he had, or Jeff, because he had, what was it? I don't know, it was 15 years old, but he had an old laptop with a Pentium in it, and he was live streaming at like a super low resolution, but he was live streaming constantly from the middle of the desert. And I'm like, I've got a nicer laptop that I'm not really using. Like, I'm like, I gotta send it to this dude. Like, he's out in the middle of the desert streaming with a Pentium. Like, come on. The least I could do is send him a nicer laptop. And it was one of those nice, like, AMD, like, APU ones. So, like, it could actually do a decent amount of gaming or whatever. And it also didn't draw a lot of power, because when you're out in the middle of the desert and you're set up on, like, off-grid system, yeah, kind of need something power efficient. Jeff's a great guy. He's fantastic. All right, let's get back into this tutorial. what are you guys doing with Pentiums? Dog. Like, and this is not me like at all saying that like you're peasants, but like you deserve better. I want more for you guys. Like, come on. Like, come on. At the very least, I want you guys to have like, you know, a $400 AMD APU laptop. Like at the very least, like, you know, like I just couldn't imagine going to school with a Pentium like nowadays. Like, cause like you've got to have like 5 different things open. And like by the second thing, your Pentium was already like screaming and begging for mercy. Like, oh yes, you did, Jeff. Yes, you did. I'm glad to see all you guys here. It's glad to have all you guys. All right, so let's get back into this. Let's get into creating our first app with Django.
Run Python.
Also, I do want to go ahead and say, I'll go ahead and do a brief overview of what we've already gone through before the intermission. Again, if you guys actually want to take this course or anything, you can either watch the video on the guy's channel that we're watching. His channel name is in the description, and earlier in chat, I put the link to this up there. So let me see if I can post that again. Have I copied something else? Yes, I have. But anyway, so essentially what we've gone through is like, what is Django? It's a back end using Python for delivering data to front ends like React or whatever else. We've gone through setting up a project, creating it, doing all the like initial setup for the virtual environment, and we've created the project, and then we've also started up our server, all this good stuff. I have managed my YouTube channel and streams on this Pentium laptop, and I've been doing business and IT work in school on it. That is wild, man. Like, that is wild. Like, you need to be a spokesperson for old Pentium laptops. Like, that's what you need to be doing. Like, that is impressive. You've been like, God dang. And to think, like, I worry about maybe one day down the line getting an upgraded like M2 Pro or whatever when that shit comes out, just so I can have like plenty of overhead for doing all the stuff that I do. Man, dude, I am so fucking spoiled. Thank you guys for just making sure my ego doesn't get too big.
Manage.py, start app, and we're going to call this app Playground. Okay, so let's close this window. And
okay, so we're gonna hold on. We're gonna start Python
manage.py, start app, and we're going to call this app
Playground. Okay. All right, so let's go over into VS Code, and we're gonna go Python manage.py start app Playground. Right? Yep. That's it. Bada boop.
Ground. Okay, so let's close this window and open up the Explorer panel. All right, look, here's our new app, which is represented using a folder with a special structure. So every Django app has the exact same structure. Here we have the migrations folder for generating database tables. We'll talk about that later in the course. We have a complete section about this topic. We have the admin module where we define how the admin interface for this app is going to look like. Next, we have the apps module where we configure this app. So the name is misleading. I don't know why Django developers decided to call this module apps. It would be better if it was called config. That's just my 2 cents. Next, we have the models module where we define the model classes for this app. We use model classes to pull out data from the database and present to the user. Next, we have the tests module where we write our unit tests. And finally, we have the views module, which we'll talk about in the next lesson. Again, the name is misleading. This is not the view that you think if you come from a front-end development background. So what we have here is essentially a request handler. It's not a view. It doesn't have a template or HTML. Again, we'll talk about that in the next lesson. So we created a new app. Now we need to register this app in the settings module. So every time you create a new app, you need to register it here in the list of installed apps. We simply add the name of the app, which is called Playground. Save the changes, done. In the next lesson, we're going to talk about views.
Okay. All right, piss off advertisement. So we go in here, we go Playground. Cool. Save that. Blow through this ad.
Want to join the six-figure club?
No,
Google and other tech
I
companies
don't.
are hiring hundreds of thousands of workers.
I don't want 6 figures. 6 figures is gross. That's so much money. Ugh.
All right, let's talk about views. So earlier you learned that
Hello,
HTTP
Mr. Brahma.
is a request response protocol. So every data exchange involves a request and a response. This is where we use views in Django. So here in the Playground folder, let's open up the views module. This is where we define our views or view functions. A view function is a function that takes a request and returns a response. So more accurately, it's a request handler. In some frameworks, it's called an action. In Django, it's called a view. But I don't agree with this name because from an architectural point.
Okay. So let's go into Playground. Click Views. All right. So it's a request response handler. Cool.
Of view, a view is often associated with something that the user sees. That part in Django is called a template, and we'll talk about that later in this section. Now, that aside, let's create our first view function. So we're going to create a function. We can call it anything we want. I'm going to call it, say, hello. Now, this function should take a request object and return a response. So first, on the top, from Django.http package, we're going to import the HTTP response class. Now,
Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. From Django.http import, what was it? HTTP response. All right. And we'll just. So, okay, so then we just need to define, say hello, and that's going to take in a request. All right.
this function, we can do anything we want. In a real world scenario, we can pull data from a database, we can transform data, we can send emails and so on. For now, let's just return a simple response. So we're going to return an instance of the HTTP response class. And in this object, in this response, you want to add a simple string. So let's say hello world. Okay, so this is our first view or first view function. Now we need to map this view to a URL. So when we get a request at that URL, this function will be called. And that's what we're going to do next. All right, here's our Django project. Now, let's say whenever we send a request to playground/hello, our view function should be called and return hello world to the user. Let's see how we can do that. So back to our project. Here in the playground folder, we're going to add a new file called urls.py. You could call it anything. The name doesn't matter. But by convention, we call it URLs. Now, in this module, we're going to map our URLs to our view functions.
Okay. We'll just add something here. Print hello world here. Okay, so it's got something. And then we're going to add a new file. We're going to call it urls.py. Right.
So on the top, we're going to import the path function from Django.urls. So from Django.urls, we're going to import the path function. Now don't.
Okay. From Django.urls, import the path.
Worry about memorizing any of these. As you practice, all of this will become second nature. Also, from the current folder, we should import the views module so we can reference our view function. Now we should define a special variable.
Okay. So from this folder, import views.
Called URL patterns, all in lowercase. Make sure to spell it properly because this is what Django looks for. We should set this to an array of URL pattern objects. We use the path function to
Okay.
create a URL pattern object. So if we call this function, look at the signature of this function. This function has a bunch of parameters. The first one is route, which is a string. The notation you see here is called type annotation, which is kind of a new feature in Python. With type annotation, we can see the type of parameters and the return value of a function. So the first parameter is route, which is a string. The second parameter is view, which is a function that returns HTTP response object. Now look over here. This notation represents the return type of this function. So the path function returns a URL pattern object. So I'm going to call this function and give it two arguments. A route or a URL, which is playground/hello, and a view function. So from the views module, we're going to get say hello. Note that.
Okay. Path and what is it? Playground/hello. Comma, we're going to do views dot say hello.
I'm not calling this function, so here we don't have a pair of parentheses. We're just passing a reference to this function. Okay? So what we have here is called a URL conf module. That basically means URL configuration. So every app can have its own URL configuration.
Save that URL configuration.
But now we need to import this URL configuration into the main URL configuration for this project. Where is it? You saw it earlier. So back to the Explorer panel. Here in the storefront folder, we have another URL. This module. Up here, we have a bunch of comments about how we should use this module. Now look over here. If you want to include another URL conf, there are two things we need to do. First, we need to import the include function from Django.urls. So over here, we have from Django.urls. We're going to import the include function.
Okay.
Next, we need to add a URL to URL patterns. So in this module, we also have a URL patterns object, which is an array of URL patterns object. So here we're going to call path, give it a route, and then we use the include function to reference the URL configuration module in this app. So we're going to call path and say any URLs that start with playground followed by a / should be routed to our playground app. So this is where we use the include function. The include function requires
Okay, I get you. I get you. Path. And then go playground slash comma include.
a parameter that is a string. Here we're going to reference playground.urls.
Okay.
So if we send a request to playground/hello, Django knows that all requests that start with playground should be handled by this app. So it's going to chop off the first part of this URL and pass the rest to the URL configuration module in the playground app. So back to this URLs module, we no longer need to add playground here because we added it once in the main URL configuration module. So we simply add hello, followed by
Gotcha.
// I forgot to add that. We always end our routes with a // So let's save the changes. Now, whenever we change our code, Django web server automatically restores itself. So let's open up the terminal window. Make sure we don't have any errors. Good. So back to the browser. Let's send a request to this endpoint. Great. We see hello world on the screen.
/playground/hello. All right, so we got an error. What did I miss? Didn't return HTTP response object. It returned none instead. Oh, wait. Hold on. So, wait, hold on. What does his look like?
So this is how we can map URLs to view functions. Next, we're going to talk about templates.
Wait, hold on. So
if you want a fast website, you have to try Hostinger.com. I use WordPress, and with Hostinger's Lightspeed technology.
Hey, Adam, how you doing? Let's see. All right, so we are at 32 right now. Yeah, here we go. See, I didn't copy this. Or I didn't put in this. So we got to return the HTTP response. Gotcha. Return HTTP response. And it's going to be hello world. Command S, save that. All right. And so now when I go over here and we go to /playground/hello. Hello world. Awesome. All right.
So this is our first view or first view function. Now we need to map this view to a URL. So when we get a request at that
let's go
URL,
forward.
this function will be called. And that's what So I told you that views in Django are not really views. They're more like request handlers or actions. What we often call a view in other frameworks is called a template in Django. So let's see how we can use a template to return HTML content to the client. So here in the Playground app, we're going to add a new folder called templates. And in this folder, we're going to add a new file called hello.
Let's go up here. New folder called templates. And then inside of templates, we're going to do a new file. We'll call it hello.html.
And of
Hello.html. Okay. Let's see. Rename hello.html.
course, we could call it anything. And here we can write some HTML markup. For example, we can type H1 and press tab to add an H1 heading and say hello world. Now don't worry if you don't know HTML, we're not going to use it in this course. I just want to show you how Django templates work. So let's save the changes. Now back to our view function. Instead of returning a plain HTTP response,
all right, let's set this up. Let's add an H1 tag. And let's say hello world. Save that. Then go back over into views.
I'm going to use the render function to render a template and return HTML markup to the client. So let's remove this line.
C is good.
The render
Any
function.
language is good.
Now,
just
look at the return
pick
type
one you want to learn.
of this function. It returns an HTTP response object. So
just depends on what you want to do.
Now, let's remove the brackets and type them again so we can see the function signature. The first parameter
turn render
here is a request object, and the type of this is HTTP request. So we're going to pass this request object right here. Now the second parameter, that's the name of our template.
Request,
which is a string. So here I'm going to say hello.html. The other parameters are optional, so don't worry about them at this point. Now,
okay. Oop, totally forgot. Gotta wrap it in quotes. Go. So now, boop, there we are.
save the changes. Let's make sure our project works up to this point. So back in the browser, refresh, beautiful. Now we see HTML content. We can verify it by right-clicking on this page and looking at the page source. So look, we're returning HTML content. Great. Now let's make this a bit more interesting. So back to our template. Instead of hello world, we can dynamically render some value. So back to our view function. Let's type a comma to see the next parameter. That is a context object, and the type of this is a mapping of string to any. That means we can pass any mapping object that maps a string value to any other type of object. So here we can pass a dictionary. So let's pass a dictionary. The type of the key should be a string, so we can call that name. And we're going to set that to a value like, let's say, Mosh. Now, back to our template. Instead of hello world, we can render the name that we passed here. So we type 2 pairs of braces, and in between, we type the name of the key. Save, refresh, beautiful. Now, in this template, we can also write some logic. So we can type an if statement. So we type braces, and in between them, we add 2 percentage signs. In between them, we can write an if statement. So we can say,
let's go back
if
here.
name is set, we can render it here.
Go back.
Refresh. And we're going to set that to a value like.
All right, so we can pass in variables with the request. So, comma, let's do some brackets, and we're going to do name is equal to Zaney, right? Oh, nope, not equals, it's colon. Cool. Yeah, I guess we can get rid of all these extra spaces in here. Just keep it a little bit more compact. Why not? Why not? So Command S, and then all we got to do is go down here. Hello and welcome. And then we do 2 quotes here and give name. Right? Command S. Mod R. Perfect. Perfect. So there is a space in between there. Yep, good. Well, yeah, I've added it there. What am I talking about?
Let's say Mosh. Now, back to our template. Instead of hello world, we can render the name that we passed here. So we type 2 pairs of braces. So we can type an if statement. So we type braces, and in between them, we add 2 percentage signs. In between them, we can write an if statement. So we can say, if name is set, we can render it here. Otherwise, we can render hello world. And of course, we need an end if clause as well. So end if. Now, this syntax is kind of ugly, but the good thing about Django is that it's modular. So you can easily replace Django's default template engine with your preferred template engine. But once again, we don't really use templates in Django projects that often these days. There are special cases for them, but for the most part, we use Django to build APIs that return data, not HTML content. So I just included this lesson so you know what templates are and how they work. We're not going to spend any more time on templates for now, unless we encounter a situation where we really need them.
Okay.
Why are you not investing in tax liens? No, seriously. Why are you not investing into one of the most incredible real estate strategies that's the most passive and creates the highest rate of return?
Get out of here.
Let's talk about debugging Django applications in VS Code. This is particularly useful if our application doesn't produce the right result and we want to run it line by line and see where exactly something has gone wrong. So click on this icon to open the Run and Debug panel. Now, the first time you see this message saying we should create a launch.json file. Basically, we need to create a launch profile so VS Code knows how to run or debug this application. So let's click on this. Now, in this list, select Django. All right, here's our launch.json file.
Okay, let's go to Run and Debug. Let's click Django. Yeah, so we don't we don't have the interpreter file from earlier. So yeah, I guess it doesn't, I guess VS Code doesn't actually add it to your project anymore. You just choose an interpreter and go. Oh, I hear a horn outside.
You see here is kind of like a dictionary in Python. You have a bunch of key value pairs. These key value pairs define a launch profile. So VS Code knows that to run this application, it should use the current Python interpreter to run manage.py, which exists in our workspace folder. And then as an argument, it should pass run server to it. Here we can add an additional argument to specify the port so it doesn't clash with port 8000, which is currently in use. Okay, save the changes. We're done with this file, so let's close it.
All right, so we need to set args to run server and comma 9,000. Oh wait, I don't think we. Yeah.
Specify the port so it doesn't clash with port 8000, which is currently in use. Okay, save the changes. We're done with this file, so let's close it. Now, if you're curious, let me show you where this file exists. It's added to our project up here inside the VS Code folder. So here's our launch profile. Now that we have a launch profile, if we go to the run and debug panel, we see something else. So here we can start our application for debugging. But before doing so, I want to write some dummy code here in our view function. So let's set x to 1 and y to 2. Now I'm going to click on this line to insert a breakpoint. When we add a breakpoint, VS Code will execute every line of code until it hits our breakpoint. From that point onward, we can execute our code line by line. So let's add a breakpoint and then start the application for debugging. All right, let me collapse this window. Good. So in this new terminal window, we have a development server listening on port 9000. So let's hold down the command key on Mac or control on Windows and click on this link. All right, here's what we get. The homepage of our project is gone because we have registered a custom route that is playground/hello. So we see the homepage only the first time we run our Django project. So let's go to playground/hello. All right, our breakpoint is activated and we are on this line. Now on the left side, in the variables section, you can see the local variables. So currently we have the request object. That is the request object that we receive in this function. So we can expand it and inspect its various attributes. We don't want to do that for now. So let's close this. We want to execute our code line by line. So here we have a bunch of functions. The first one is step over, and the shortcut for this is F10. With this, we can step over the current line. So if we press F10, this line gets executed, and now we are on the second line. Now look over here. In the list of local variables, we have x, and its value is 1. This is very useful when debugging applications. So if something is not calculated properly, we can inspect it here. Now, most of the time, you can see your local variables here, but if not, you can always add them in the watch window. So before recording this video, I was practicing. That's why you see X here. Let me select this and delete it. So in your watch section, you're not going to have any variables. To add one, we simply click on this and then type the name of our variable. Okay. So this is how we can step over various lines. So we can press F10 again and again. So this function is executed, and now back in the browser, we see the final result. Now let's do something more interesting. So back to our code. Let's close the terminal window so we have more space. I'm going to define a function here called calculate. And here we're going to set x to 1, y to 2, and return x. just some dummy code. Now over here, we're going to call the calculate function. Okay. Now save the changes back in the browser. Let's refresh. So our view function gets called. Now we are right here. Now this time, instead of stepping over this line, we want to step into it. Because if we step over this line, we're not going to see what happened in the calculate function. We see the final result. So we see x is set to 1, and we can verify that over here as well. But sometimes we need to step into a function to see what is happening there. Maybe there is a bug inside the calculate function. So let's restart the debugger. Okay, I'm going to close this. Back in the browser. Let's refresh this page.
So you want to know where to invest $1,000 right now?
No,
well, forget about stocks, real estate, or cryptocurrency.
Okay, we're back to this line. Now this time, we're going to step into this function. So look over here. This is the icon for stepping into a function. And as you can see, the shortcut is F11. So if you press F11, we go inside the calculate function. Now we can execute each line using F10 or step over and see where something has gone wrong. Now let's imagine this calculate function is a large function with a lot of code. At some point, we want to step out of it without having to execute every line of code in this function. There's a shortcut for this. So look over here. That is step out. The shortcut is Shift and F11. So if we press Shift and F11, we get back to the previous function. So this is how we can debug Django applications in VS Code. Now, once we're done, it's always a good practice to remove these breakpoints. Otherwise, they get in the way. So as you debug your applications, you place various breakpoints in different parts of your code, and you will hit them all the time. So always remove your breakpoints once you're done with them. So we're done with this debugging session. Now we can disconnect by pressing Shift and F5 or clicking on this icon. All right. Now, one last tip before we finish this lesson. On the top, under the Run menu, look, we have a command called Run Without Debugging. The shortcut on Mac is Control and F5. So if we use this shortcut, we can start our application without having to run Python manage.py run server. Let me show you what I mean. So first, let's bring up our terminal window. Here's the second terminal window that we use for debugging. I'm going to delete this. Here's the first terminal window where we started our application by running Python manage.py run server. So let's press Control and C to stop the server. Good. I'm also going to delete this terminal window. Let's imagine we just opened this project in VS Code, day one. Now, to run this application without debugging, we can press Control and F5. Now our application has started on port 9000. So we can go to this address and then hit playground/hello. So this is how we can run our application without debugging. Just remember that if you use this command, your breakpoints are not going to get hit. So if you want to debug your applications, you should start it in the debug mode. There is another way to debug Django applications using a powerful tool called Django Debug Toolbar. So if you go to Google and search for Django Debug Toolbar, you're going to find this page. Over here, you're going to find the installation instructions. So I highly encourage you to follow along with me and repeat the same steps so we install this toolbar together. So first we have to use pip or pipenv to install Django.
I think
Debug
this is the
Toolbar.
part that we're going to skip.
So back to VS Code. I'm going to open up a new terminal window.
I'll just use VS Code to debug it.
As you can see, yeah. Welcome back to another section of the Ultimate Django course. In this section, we're going to talk about models, which are used to store and retrieve
I hope it goes
data.
well, Linux Gamer.
We'll start off by a quick introduction to data modeling to make sure you know the essential concepts. Then we're going to design the data model for an e-commerce application. Next, we're going to talk about organizing our models in apps to improve reusability. This is one of the areas that is often misunderstood, so I'm going to demystify it once for all. And then we'll spend the rest of this section encoding model classes. We'll use these classes to store and retrieve data throughout the course. So let's jump in and get started.
Perfect.
The first step in every Django project is figuring out the pieces of data we want to store. So what entities or concepts do we have in an e-commerce application? Well, for starters, we need the concept of a product with attributes like title, description, price, and inventory. Now, in a real scenario, a product entity might have other attributes. It really depends on the requirements of our application. For now, we just want to keep things simple, okay? Now, quite often, our products are divided in different categories like shoes, beauty products, fruits, and so on. So we need another entity called collection or category with an attribute called title. Now we need to add a relationship or an association between these entities so we can start from one end and navigate to the other end. For example, we can get a collection and find all the products in that collection, okay? Now, let's assume that in our application, a product can belong to one and only one collection, and a collection can have multiple products. So an asterisk represents many. We could also use an N here, okay? Now we have a one-to-many relationship between collection and product. So relationships can be one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many. Back to our diagram. Now over here, we can add a label called products, and that means when we code these entities or these classes in the collection class, we're going to have an attribute called products. For now, I just want to hide this for simplicity, okay? Now, sometimes we can have multiple relationships or multiple associations between two entities. So let's imagine that a collection can optionally have a featured product. That is the product whose picture we want to show to the user. So we can add a second relationship between these entities. Now look at this number here. 0 to 1 means a collection can have 0 to 1 product, and we're going to call that attribute featured product. So once again, that means in the collection class, we're going to have an attribute called featured product, okay? Now you might ask, what about the ID attribute? Shouldn't every entity have an ID attribute? Yes, but Django is going to automatically create that for us. That's why I haven't shown it here. Now a little exercise for you. Grab a piece of paper and identify the other essential entities we need in an e-commerce application. Just the bare minimum. Don't go ahead and create a complex diagram like this. I don't want this. There are only 5 entities that I want you to identify. So spend a couple minutes and identify these entities along with the attributes and relationships. Then come back see my solution.
Yeah, we're just going to see a solution. That's what we're going to do. I'm not going to come up with fake stuff.
So this is what we ended up with in the previous lesson. We have a one-to-many relationship between collections and products. Now, don't take this as a hard and fast rule. Maybe in your application, a product can belong to many collections. Then you're going to have a many-to-many relationship between products and collections, okay? So, back to our model. I'm going to remove the collection from here so we have some free space on the screen. Now, what else do we need here? Well, in every e-commerce application, we have the concept of a shopping cart, right? So we're going to have an entity or a model or a class called cart with an attribute called created at. Let's assume that we need to know when each cart is created. So every now and then we can do a cleanup and remove carts that are 30 days old. I just made this up, but in a real scenario, you should always design your models based on the requirements of your project. Don't make up your own rules, okay? Now, we need a relationship or an association between products and carts because a cart can have multiple products and a product might be in different carts. So here we have a many-to-many relationship between products and carts. Now, sometimes the relationship between two entities can have attributes. For example, if a product is in a shopping cart, we need to know how many instances of that product we have in the shopping cart. So this relationship itself should have an attribute called quantity. So we're going to add a new entity here called cart item. Now look at the notation I've used to represent this concept. I've connected cart item to the relationship using a dashed line. That means cart item represents the relationship between these two entities, product and cart. This is what we call an association class. So cart item is an association class, okay? Now there's another way to show this. Instead of using an association class, we can add a relationship between cart and cart item because a cart might contain multiple items and an item belongs to one and only one cart. Now, similarly, we can add a relationship between product and cart item because each cart item represents a single product and a product might be referenced by many cart items. So here we have two one-to-many relationships between these entities. Now compare this with the association class notation. So we can either add a many-to-many relationship with an association class or two one-to-many relationships. It's a matter of personal preference, okay? So we're done with the shopping cart, but you might ask, what about the user or the customer that owns this cart? Where is that in the diagram? Well, I haven't connected cart with an entity like customer because we don't want to force people to register and log in before they can add products to their shopping cart, okay? So there is no relationship between carts and customers. So carts are essentially anonymous. Anyone can have a cart, whether they're anonymous users or registered customers, okay? So we're done with the cart. Now let's talk about customers. So our customer entity can have attributes like name, email, username, password, and so on. Now for simplicity, I'm only showing name and email here. Now a customer can have many orders and each order belongs to one and only one customer. So we need a one-to-many relationship between customers and orders. Now, once again, the order entity might have multiple attributes. For now, we just want to know when this order was placed, okay? Now, an order can contain multiple products and a product can be in multiple orders. So
all right. We are very close to finishing this. I have to go use the bathroom, and I'm sure the dogs that I'm taking care of need to go to the bathroom as well. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here. We're going to call it an end. I'm going to post the link to this. So for anybody who is watching and would like to check out the course as well, watch it themselves or continue from here, you can. Let me go ahead. I'll copy this and post it in chat. But I'm going to go ahead in the stream. I'll finish this up myself. Hopefully you will too if you found it informative or, worthwhile information. And yeah, this guy's got a fantastic channel. I really recommend checking him out if you want to learn anything Python, web dev, that kind of stuff. He's got a lot of fantastic tutorials. So thank you guys for all being here. It was a lot of fun and learned quite a bit. Thank you for being here, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day. Take it easy. Bye-bye.